Hey everyone, my name's Amy and today I'm going to be starting a new series of videos that is specifically designed for people who are thinking about going vegan or starting a plant-based diet. This series of videos is designed to be able to help you understand what you need to know in order to be able to follow a healthy plant-based diet that will cover all of the nutrients that you need. Alright, so for today, we're going to be talking about supplements and what supplements, if any, people actually need as a vegan. Alright, so if at any point you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. Do not forget to subscribe. Also, check me out on all of this social media so that you can see daily tips and information about fitness, nutrition, and veganism. Now, let's get started. So before we dive into talking about micronutrients and supplements, I really want to explain that I do not happen to be a dietitian, at least not yet. So I am studying nutrition with the goal of becoming a dietitian, but since I am not one yet, I cannot actually diagnose people with nutritional deficiencies and actually prescribe them various types of supplements, because that actually is something that a dietitian is supposed to do. So this video is supposed to be for information purposes only. Now, if you are having some health conditions, please go talk to a medical practitioner. And if you happen to think for any reason that you are clinically deficient in any way in a micronutrient, then you should really be able to talk to a dietitian, because they will be the ones who can help you out more and will be able to let you know if you are or are not deficient in that and what you should do going from there. Now, without further ado, let's get into the video. So, the first supplement we're talking about is vitamin B12. Now, before going vegan, you might have possibly heard this mentioned, but it's worth saying again. Vitamin B12 is probably the most important thing you should be thinking about if you've decided to go vegan, vegetarian, or simply plant-based. And this happens to be because there are no reliable plant-based sources of vitamin B12. Now, there are some studies that may suggest that you've got B12 in duckweed or in certain types of seaweed or mushrooms, but nothing has proven yet that those plants can actually be able to get someone out of a clinical B12 deficiency. And that is the standard for determining whether or not it actually has relevant B12 for humans. And because of that, the best way to be getting B12, especially if you're on a plant-based diet, is to take a supplement or to eat foods that are fortified with vitamin B12. Now, the reason why vitamin B12 is important is because it's used in so many different biological processes, including cellular respiration, which is essential for life. The RDA for vitamin B12 for adults is 2.4 micrograms, which you would actually not find on a supplement because most B12 supplements tend to do super mega overkill and give at least 500 micrograms. So any supplement you get is probably going to be giving you way more than is required. Now, if you are still interested in this topic and want to learn a little bit more about vitamin B12 and why it's found in animal products, check out this video over here, which details everything from how much is too much, how little is too little, and so forth. So the next thing we're going to talk about is vitamin D. Vitamin D is sometimes called the sunshine vitamin because it's actually not something that we mainly get from food. We mainly get it when our skin is exposed to sunlight. However, it does also happen to be found in animal products because other animals are able to make vitamin D. That could be slightly helpful to get some, but it's not the main way that our bodies are designed to be able to get enough D3 for us. However, there are a few considerations to consider with vitamin D levels. This is why I classify vitamin D as a maybe supplement. So yes, our skin can make it from sunlight, but if we happen to live in an area that happens to be cloudy or farther north, we might not be able to get enough sunlight in order to make adequate amounts. Also, if your skin tone happens to be darker, your melanin might actually block some of the ability of your body to make vitamin D. And finally, age is actually a factor. So as people age, they tend to make less vitamin D, which is why the requirements for vitamin D actually go up for people who are older than 70. So if you happen to fall into one of those three categories, you might want to start thinking about getting a vitamin D supplement. Vitamin D is important because it actually can help our body not only be able to absorb calcium, but actually move it into our bones and thus create stronger bone health. The daily requirement for vitamin D is 15 micrograms. Now, as far as supplements go, most vitamin D supplements don't actually happen to be vegan. They tend to come from, surprisingly, sheep's wool. However, there are a few brands that actually manage to make vitamin D3 for vegans from lichen. And this sort of supplement is actually preferred to vitamin D2 because it's significantly more bioavailable. So if you do happen to think about a D3 supplement, that is a good idea. Alright, so our next topic is omega-3s. And I've covered this topic before in a video looking specifically at fish oil. It didn't look pretty good for fish oil supplements. However, omega-3s still actually happen to be an essential nutrient. And some people might wonder where vegans are actually able to get enough omega-3s, because most of the time when people think about this, they tend to immediately associate it with fish. But that's actually not the only source of omega-3s. Vegans are able to get enough omega-3 in the form of ALA. ALA happens to be alpha-linoleic acid, which is the plant-based form of omega-3s, which our body can actually take and convert into the longer chains of EPA and DHA. Now, because of this, some people have said that ALA is inferior to EPA and DHA because there's such a low conversion rate for us. However, researchers know this, and they've taken this into account when giving the recommended amount. The recommended amount for omega-3s is actually done in terms of how much ALA people would need in order to be sufficient with their diet. For men, this happens to be 1.6 grams a day, and for women, this happens to be 1.1 grams a day, unless they are breastfeeding, when it goes up to 1.4 grams a day, or if they're pregnant, when it's back at 1.3 grams a day. Vegans are able to get enough omega-3 from things such as flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, and English walnuts. You can also get omega-3 supplements that are based out of algae specifically for vegans. Now, let's talk about iodine. This specific mineral is actually incredibly useful for keeping our thyroid functioning. Our thyroid helps control so many different things in the body that it's imperative that we take care of our health in that regard. The RDA for iodine is 150 micrograms for all adults except for pregnant women who need 220 micrograms, or women who are breastfeeding who need 290 micrograms. Now, most of the time, people tend to get iodine from animal products, but for vegans, you can get this in two really simple sources: seaweed and iodized salt. I personally like to put dulse on my food at least once a day in order to get my iodine, and it really doesn't affect the flavor at all. However, if you're not really a big fan of that, 1/4 teaspoon of iodized salt can actually cover your iodine needs for the day. Alright, so let's talk about calcium. A lot of people seem to think that the only source of calcium happens to come from dairy products, and marketing is a pretty big reason for this. And dairy products do actually happen to be high in calcium, but they're not the only foods that are. People need 1,000 milligrams of calcium a day in order to maintain their bone health and to be able to help with all of the other places in their body that calcium helps with. Now, if you happen to be an older adult, specifically over the age of 70, then your requirements for calcium are going to be about 200 milligrams higher than the rest of the adult population, simply because you need the more calcium to be able to help maintain your bone mass as you grow older. So vegans don't actually have to supplement with this unless they don't happen to be getting enough in their diet. And there's easy enough ways for vegans to be able to get enough calcium. Plant-based milks are often fortified with calcium, and soy milk tends to be fortified with calcium and already have calcium in it because soy products are a good source of calcium. Other foods that contain quite a bit of calcium are kale, tahini, other leafy greens, and more things like that. If you're still worried about how much calcium you're getting, you can always take a supplement, but it's not necessary, as long as you're eating a wide variety of calcium-containing foods. Now let's talk about iron. So iron is used in so many different places in the body for various reactions, and is actually used to be able to help the hemoglobin on red blood cells be able to carry oxygen throughout the body. So the recommended daily allowance for iron happens to be higher for women and lower for men. For women, it happens to be 18 milligrams a day until they reach the age of 50. This is because that higher amount of iron is needed when a woman is pregnant, because when a woman becomes pregnant, her blood volume increases dramatically, and it's also needed to be able to help the fetus as it is growing. For men, virtually always, it's going to be 8 milligrams a day, and for women after the age of 50, it's going to be 8 milligrams a day, just like the men. One of the big reasons why people seem to think that vegans must supplement with iron in order to be healthy is because of the difference between heme iron, which is found in animal products, and non-heme iron, which is found in plant products. So heme iron is actually more bioavailable. However, there's a few tricks that you can actually use to be able to enhance the bioavailability of plant-based iron. Tip number 1 is to eat plant-based iron-rich foods with vitamin C. So, foods such as beans, grains sometimes, and dark green leafy vegetables tend to be really high in iron, and if you eat those foods with foods that are higher in vitamin C, it will make it so that your body is able to absorb more. Things that are high in vitamin C are raspberries, red bell peppers, oranges, citrus fruit, and so on. Another option is to also add in beta carotene. Beta carotene is the plant-based version of vitamin A. This also actually helps the absorption of plant-based forms of iron. So sweet potatoes, carrots, and just about anything that happens to be orange in color and your dark green leafy vegetables will all provide enough beta carotene to increase the amount of iron absorption. And then the third thing is going to be to avoid drinking tea with your meals. The polyphenols that are found in tea can actually block the absorption of iron. So if you avoid having this drink with food, then you're going to be able to absorb more iron than you would otherwise. Last mineral we're going to be talking about today happens to be zinc. Zinc is very important in our body, and you might have heard about it being a supplement you could take to help boost your immune function, but it does so much more than that. Healing, cell division, DNA duplication, and even building proteins that our bodies will use to build structures throughout the body. The RDA for zinc is 11 milligrams a day for men and 8 milligrams a day for adult women. Now that does go up for women when they do happen to be pregnant or breastfeeding at about 11 milligrams, but most of the time it's going to be down at that 8. I have found that some people think that vegans will be automatically low in their zinc levels simply because they don't eat animal products. And this is because some of the foods that happen to be higher in zinc do tend to be animal products. However, if you happen to eschew eating meat and other animal products for ethical or health reasons, then there still are great ways for you to be able to get enough zinc. Things such as beans and grains tend to have a lot of zinc in them. Now, if you're still worried a little bit about how much zinc you're getting, the best plant-based food for zinc is going to be pumpkin seeds. Not only are pumpkin seeds fairly high in protein and in healthy fats, they actually happen to have 2.2 milligrams of zinc per 1 ounce, which is a pretty large amount compared to some other plant-based options that are out there. However, if you do happen to have a varied diet that includes a wide variety of beans and different types of whole grains, you should be able to get enough zinc every day. All right, so I really hope that this video is helpful to you. And the big takeaway that I want you to have from this video is to understand that if you eat a wide variety of healthy plant-based foods, then you should be able to get enough of the micronutrients that you need as long as you happen to be taking that B12 supplement. All right, so I really hope that this video helps you and that you learned something today. Let me know down in the comment section if you want to see any more videos like this, or if you have any ideas for videos in this series for people who happen to want to go plant-based or vegan. All right, so I hope that you always remember to love God, eat greens, get moving. See you in the next video.